This Pride Month is borderline out of control. Pride Month. You know, we have Veterans Day, we have Memorial Day, but Pride Month, and it's out of hand. And Joe Biden thinks if you're not waving the flag and fully on board, if you're concerned about the privacy of your children, of your family, then somehow you must be an ultra MAGA bigot. Yeah, that's what he's selling.
I don't have to tell you about the ultra-MAGA agenda attacking families and our freedoms. 300 discriminatory bills introduced in states across this country. In Texas, knocking on front doors to harass and investigate parents who are raising transgender children. In Florida, going after Mickey Mouse, for God's sake.
Cheap laugh from a liberal crowd. The Florida so-called Don't Say Gay bill is nothing like that. It's about maintaining privacy for the families. You don't want some stranger talking to your kid about sex. In Texas, we don't want kids taking experimental hormonal therapy. These are very reasonable provisions, laws. They are. Joe Biden went woke. The country didn't. The mainstream country did not. And then this got very weird. You heard about the situation in Idaho?
Just look at what happened in Idaho last weekend. 31 white supremacists stopped just before they reached the Pride celebration, where they apparently planned to unleash violence on people gathering peacefully in a show of their pride. I'm grateful for the swift response of law enforcement, and they responded. They responded.
I've got my doubts about this whole Idaho situation. It's very strange. It's being, well, some aspects of it are being covered up, like a transgender individual was in the mix there and wanting to raise hell. Robert John Stomps also arrested, but somehow overlooked in all of this. It's those white supremacists. By the way, we don't like white supremacists, okay? But we'll get back to that. If somebody wants to protest peacefully, whatever their viewpoint is, they're allowed to. Back to the White House, Joe Biden brought a high school senior into the mix.
I fear other students in Florida and across the country will not be able to get the same support because of hateful legislation like the Don't Say Gay bill. I've been proud to work side by side with fellow students and allies in the community to fight back against this legislation that seeks to make schools in my state a more dangerous and hostile place to be LGBTQ+.
They're hiding behind an 18-year-old kid. That's hyperbole. He's wrong. It's fear-mongering. I don't care if he's a nice guy and he's wearing a white suit and he's 18. He's lying. You know, America, we're just not bigoted. Our culture is one of tolerance, even pop culture. Who remembers the Blues Brothers, Jake and Elwood? In one scene in the Blues Brothers, one of my favorite movies of all time, they happen upon the Illinois Nazis. And we hate Illinois Nazis. We do, they do. And they deserved what happened to them. I love this. They drove the car onto the bridge, and all those crazy Nazis had to jump in the river. It was beautiful. All right, back to Joe Biden. He's not unifying us, and he continues to destroy the economy. In part, possibly, is he envious of all those rich business executives who got there by way of skill and tenacity and hard work? I think maybe he is a little bit jealous of them.
We're going to make sure that everybody knows Exxon's profits. Why don't you tell them what Exxon's profits were this quarter? Exxon made more money than God this year.
Well, I'm telling you, there was a hint of jealousy there. Joe, I mean, he's been an important person for 50 years. He should be a rich man, and he's going to tell these executives what to do. These are talented people, by the way. You can't become the head of Exxon or Chevron or any of these companies by being an idiot, yet there's no telling how far you can go in politics. Joe sent them all a stern letter. I think he wanted it to be stern, but it was kind of wishy-washy and all over the place. I am writing to you about the high prices our fellow Americans are paying at the pump and how we can all play a part in addressing them. All right, what's next, Mr. President? In the United States alone, oil refiners significantly reduced their capacity during the pandemic. Next, he writes, I understand that many factors contributed to the business decisions to reduce refinery capacity, which occurred before I took office. What a classic career politician. Not my fault. Also, The crunch that families are facing deserves immediate action. Your companies need to work with my administration to bring forward concrete near-term solutions that address the crisis. And finally, I appreciate your immediate attention to this issue and your efforts to mitigate the economic challenges that Vladimir Putin's actions have created for American families. I thought he said something about before he got to office. Now it's all Vladimir Putin's fault. He's all over the place. He does not know what to do. He does not know how to talk to these executives. Look, you could deregulate and free up and pull back all of these crazy policies that he imposed, but he does not know how to talk to executives. He doesn't like them. He's jealous of them. Donald Trump, meanwhile, he had an ease with them. He really did. There he is with the head of Apple. In some ways, and I know some business leaders, particularly on the left, want to deny this, but he's one of them. They speak the same language. Joe, no. A career politician, he does not, cannot, will not, and even at his, maybe in his prime, but certainly not now. And how about this? No chief executive would make public statements undermining a rank-and-file employee. You could get sued for that. You could get in big trouble for that. But that's what Joe Biden did to those Border Patrol, I call them the Cowboys. Remember this? Happened in September of last year. I see Border Patrol horsemen doing their job, keeping illegal immigrants out of the country. Those guys are in trouble, and Joe Biden helped put them in trouble. Right now, they're facing administrative violations. Multiple agents will be charged. Use of foul language has been cited. Foul language. You see, anybody who knows about horses and how they're employed can see by these pictures and video that they're not actually doing anything wrong. So they may just go after him for foul language. It's true. Joe, in all of his ignorance, it was on full display when he just had to do something, right?
It was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over, people being strapped, it's outrageous. I promise you those people will pay. They will be, an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences.
How about letting the investigation determine the facts first before you say there's going to be punishment? This is so unprofessional and so against, quite frankly, how government is supposed to work. He wasn't the only one. The media, others in government, everybody wanted the heads of these poor guys just doing their job.
You can't whip people's ass with a whip or a rein and say you're doing your job simply because your job gets difficult.
We know that those images painfully conjured up the worst elements of our nation's ongoing battle against systemic racism.
There needs to be consequence and accountability. Human beings should not be treated that way. And as we all know, it also evoked images of some of the worst moments of our history.
All right. Well, you're all wrong. All of you. Dramatically so, because these guys were doing a fine job. In fact, turn up the music and let's take a look. This is not evoking images of slavery. They're not rounding these guys up. They're trying to keep them out. And they have studied these pictures. They have looked at them. That whip is not coming into contact with anybody, except, quite frankly, the horse. And you can have a discussion about that if you want. But they're going after them for foul language. They got to get them on something. You can't make the president look like an idiot, can you? All right. So he's not unifying us. Remember, on Inauguration Day, he stood there, that solemn promise. You know, I was thinking about this when Joe was with those executives writing the letter and yesterday giving that ridiculous speech in Philadelphia. Joe knows literally nothing. Anybody with a job or who has had a job, a real job, knows more than Joe Biden, has greater expertise, greater skill. Totally. No matter what that job is, by the way. I don't care if we're talking about a cashier. You could be a lawyer, maybe, or even a sanitation worker. These jobs actually take skill and experience. A nurse or a doctor, a healthcare provider, a teacher, an accountant. You have to study to get these jobs. You really do. A police officer, that takes training. A construction worker. I can go on and on. A waitress, a surgeon, a chef, anything you can think of almost where they pay you, you've got to have some skill. You got to have some training. Now, I want you to think for a moment about what it is that Joe Biden did to become a United States Senator. What did he do? He had a great smile, and that's kind of all you need. He went around asking people for favors and money and for their vote. And there he is telling Exxon executives what to do. He was in the private sector, if you can call it that, for 2 years as the low man on the totem pole at the fourth smallest law firm in Wilmington, Delaware. And now he's writing letters to Exxon. By the way, if you really want to be a senator from Delaware, you could probably make that happen. Delaware is not big. Just a quick reminder here, it's very small. In fact, dozens of counties are bigger than Delaware. San Bernardino, California dwarfs the entire state of Delaware, okay? So many counties like this. Maricopa County in Arizona, like 5 times the size as Delaware. Clark County in Nevada. Is that the home of Las Vegas? I think it is. Much bigger than Delaware, even, and I was surprised by this, Suffolk County on Long Island. I grew up in the county right next door, bigger than the entire state of Delaware. So, what does that mean about Joe? How do you get a job like that? Donald Trump called it all the way back in 1980 or 81, when he was, even before he was old enough to be president, they were asking him, could you see yourself as president someday? He was that impressive.
Would you like to be the president of the United States?
I really don't believe I would run it, but I would like to see somebody as the president who could do the job. I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile.
No great brain, but a big smile. Sounds like somebody we know, doesn't it? Just a little bit? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. No skill whatsoever. Making promises, asking for money, asking for a vote. That's it. What could he tell? Oh, I guess he's qualified to be a lobbyist. And we know about those guys. Well, we're not impressed by them. They don't provide much in the way of value, do they?